Hello and welcome to Timeless Wisdom. If you notice your joints speaking up a bit more when you bend down, or if a perfect weekend for you means pottering around with a fresh bag of seeds and a steaming cup of tea, you're among friends here. My own gardening journey has been full of muddy boots, learning curves, and a lot of laughter along the way. What I've realised is that gardening in this season of life isn't about doing more or keeping up with anyone else. It's about enjoying simple pleasures, finding clever ways to save effort, and letting the garden bring joy instead of stress. If the scent of tomato vines brings back memories, if you've ever whispered encouragement to your plants, or if you just want a garden that gives you more than it takes, then you're in the right spot. Today, I'd love to talk about 15 things I've stopped doing in my garden. Small shifts that have made it more enjoyable and much easier to manage. And if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to Timeless Wisdom for more down-to-earth advice and a community of fellow garden lovers. Shall we get started? Let's step outside and see what the garden has to offer today. Number 1, I quit tilling the soil, and my back has thanked me ever since. Now, I'll be honest, there was a time when I thought tilling was just what you had to do. Spring would roll in, and out came the rototiller like clockwork. It made me feel productive, like I was really preparing the land, you know? But truth be told, it left me sore, sweaty, and somehow still fighting more weeds than ever. And here's the thing I finally learned. After years of stiff knees and pulled muscles, tilling does more harm than good. It tears up the soil structure we've worked so hard to build, stirs up weed seeds that would have otherwise stayed buried, and scares off all the good critters, worms, microbes, the little guys that actually make our soil healthy. So what do I do instead? I layer. I let nature take the wheel. Leaves in the fall, I pile them right on the beds. Kitchen scraps? Into the compost heap they go. I add mulch, untreated and natural, right over top. No digging, no gas-powered noise, no ibuprofen afterward. It's like making lasagna, but for the soil. Each layer feeds the earth gently, and while it's working its magic, I get to enjoy my tea in the shade, listening to the birds, not the tiller. If your body's been hinting that tilling might not be for you anymore, listen to it. There's a softer, better way. And believe me, your soil and your spine will be all the better for it. Number 2, I quit planting fussy flowers, and my garden grew happier without them. Let me tell you something I wish I'd realized 20 years ago. Not every beautiful flower deserves a spot in your yard. Oh sure, those catalogue photos look like heaven on earth. Blooms the size of your hand, colours so bright they make your glasses fog up. But behind that beauty, often it's a whole lot of fuss. There were years I spent babying plants that just didn't want to live here. Constant pruning, pest control, spraying, covering, uncovering. Honestly, I felt more like a plant nanny than a gardener. And let's be real, at our age we didn't retire just to babysit begonias. So I made a switch. I started listening to my garden, not the garden centre. I leaned into native perennials, the kind that laughed in the face of heat waves and don't pout when you miss a watering. I planted hardy, old-fashioned roses, the kind your grandmother grew, the ones with real scent and real backbone. And I found joy in drought-tolerant blooms that don't throw a tantrum when the hose skips a day. Now I walk through the yard and everything looks calm. Not perfect, not prize-winning, but peaceful. And that, my friend, is better than any blue ribbon. Number 3, I quit hand-watering everything and finally got my afternoons back. You know the routine, one hand on the hose, the other swatting mosquitoes, and somehow your shoes are still soaked even though you swear you weren't aiming at your feet. For years I thought hand-watering was part of the charm, a chance to bond with the plants, sure, but also a daily chore that kept getting longer as my garden grew and my knees grew stiffer. Some evenings I'd look out the window and think, do I really want to wrestle that hose again? That's when I decided to try a drip irrigation system. Nothing fancy or expensive, just a basic kit from the hardware store. I started with one flower bed, then a few containers. Eventually, it grew into a quiet, efficient network that waters while I'm off doing something I actually enjoy, like reading a seed catalogue or sipping lemonade in the shade. No more dragging hoses, no more forgotten spots or overwatered pots. And best of all, it gives me more time to enjoy the garden instead of constantly tending to it. If watering is starting to feel like a marathon instead of a moment of peace, maybe it's time to let the system do the work while you just sit back and soak in the beauty. Number 4, I quit relying on annuals for all my colour, and my garden became a true companion. There was a time I'd load up the cart every spring, petunias, marigolds, impatiens, bright little promises that lit up the garden like confetti. And they were lovely, no doubt about it. But come fall, they'd vanish like guests after a party, leaving behind empty pots and the quiet whisper, "See you next year if you're up for it." Eventually, I got tired of starting over. My back wasn't too keen on replanting the same spots year after year, and my wallet wasn't thrilled either. So I started shifting my thinking. Instead of treating colour like a one-season fling, I built something more lasting, like an old friendship. Steady, low maintenance, and always there when you need a little joy. I brought in perennials that love my zone and don't mind a missed watering or two. Coneflowers, salvia, black-eyed Susans, they show up year after year like loyal neighbours, waving hello from across the yard. And sure, I still toss in a few cheerful annuals for a pop of pizzazz, because, hey, we've still got style. But now, they're the accent, not the whole outfit. If you're looking for a garden that gives more than it takes, think long-term. Choose plants that grow with you, because let's face it, some days we need blooms that are just as resilient as we are. Number 5, I quit using artificial mulch and my garden finally felt alive beneath my feet. Now, I'll admit, there was a time I fell for the look of those dyed wood chips. You know the ones. Bright red, deep black, spread out so neatly they looked like a magazine cover. I thought I was being fancy, but my plants? They weren't nearly as impressed. Turns out that pretty mulch was doing more harm than good. It didn't break down the way real organic matter does, it didn't feed the soil, and honestly, it smelled kind of funny in the heat. The worst part? I kept having to replace it year after year, like a bad habit I just couldn't quit. So I tried something different. I started planting ground covers, low-growing, low-fuss companions like creeping thyme, sweet woodruff, and lamium. And let me tell you, these little beauties are the real MVPs. They protect the soil, choke out weeds, and come back every spring like loyal old friends who know just where to sit. Plus, they give texture and colour in places mulch never could. Some even bloom, and guess what? I haven't bought a bag of dyed chips in years, and I don't miss them one bit. If bending over to spread mulch every season feels like a chore these days, maybe your garden's trying to tell you something. Let nature do the mulching, and let your knees enjoy the break. Number 6, I quit starting beds without a plan, and my garden finally made sense to me and the plants. There was a time when I'd walk through a nursery, fall in love with 5 different plants, and bring them all home without a clue where they were going. Sound familiar? Oh, the excitement was real, but so was the chaos that followed. Some went into too much shade, others too close together, and a few just disappeared behind taller neighbours, like the shy kid in a class photo. Back then, I planted with my heart. Now, I still plant with my heart, but I bring my head along for the ride. These days, before I dig a single hole, I pause. I sketch things out. I take a moment to think about height, colour, texture, and bloom time. I even give roots a little breathing room because crowding isn't just uncomfortable at holiday dinners, it's tough on plants too. And you know what? Planning doesn't steal the joy, it deepens it. Now my garden feels balanced. Each plant has its place, and I spend less time moving things around and more time just enjoying. If you've ever planted something only to forget where or why, maybe it's time to slow down just a little. A 5-minute sketch today might save you a sore back and a whole lot of replanting next month. Trust me, your future self and your flowers will thank you. Number 7, I quit ignoring plant tags and suddenly everything started growing where it should. Oh, those little plastic tags. How many times have we tossed them aside like crumpled receipts? I used to think, I'll remember. Or worse, it'll figure itself out. Spoiler alert, it never did. Back in my younger gardening days, I treated plant tags like suggestions. Full sun. I tried. Part shade, 3 feet tall. I'd squeeze it between 2 giants and hope for the best. And spacing, let's just say my beds got a little too cozy. But as time went on, and let's be honest, as my knees got a little less eager to redo everything, I learned to treat those tags like treasure maps. They tell you so much in just a few lines. How tall the plant will get, when it'll bloom, how much space it needs to breathe, and whether it's a sun lover or a shade seeker. Now, I tuck those tags into a little garden notebook. I even jot down notes if something thrives or fails. And wouldn't you know it, my plants are happier, my beds look more balanced, and I spend far less time moving things around like a garden game of musical chairs. If you're tired of surprises in your flower beds, surprises like, why is this thing 6 feet tall? Maybe it's time to start reading the fine print. Sometimes the simplest tools are the ones we've been ignoring all along. Number 8, I quit overbuying garden tools and found freedom in the simplicity. There was a time when I truly believed the next tool would change everything. You know the feeling. Standing in the garden aisle, staring at some shiny, oddly shaped gadget that promises to weed, edge, prune, and maybe even make you coffee. And for a moment, it feels like this will be the answer to all our gardening aches and pains. But here's what I learned after years of collecting tools that ended up collecting dust. Most of them didn't save me time. They just took up space. What I really needed, a good, sharp pair of pruners, a sturdy trowel that fits my hand, gloves that actually protect without making me fumble, and a kneeling pad that shows mercy to these older knees. Once I narrowed it down to just the essentials, something funny happened. My shed became easier to navigate, my chores felt less cluttered, and I stopped wasting time hunting for that one tool I swore I had somewhere under the pile. Gardening doesn't need to look like a hardware store exploded in your backyard. Sometimes less truly is more. And when you only keep what you really use, you make room for peace, for presence, and for that quiet kind of joy that comes from working with your hands, not your credit card. Number 9, I quit chasing the perfect garden and started enjoying the one I already had. There was a time when I'd walk through my garden and only see the weeds, the tools I forgot to put away, or the one plant that just refused to behave. I'd compare it to magazine spreads or those polished photos on Pinterest, and I'd feel like I was always falling short, like my garden was never quite ready to show. But here's what time and a few sore knees taught me. Gardens aren't meant to be perfect. They're not photo shoots or prize displays. They're living, breathing spaces, and just like us, they're most beautiful when they're a little wild, a little worn, and a whole lot real. Now I smile at the patches of clover the bees adore. I chuckle at the uneven edges of my flower beds, and if I leave my gloves on the bench overnight, well, that just means I was too busy enjoying the moment to tidy up. Perfection is exhausting. But peace? That's a gift we can grow into. So if your garden has a few quirks, let it. Because chances are those so-called imperfections are the very things that make it yours. Number 10. I quit gardening just for looks and discovered a whole new kind of beauty. I'll admit it, there was a time when every hole in a leaf made me sigh. I'd inspect my roses like a detective at a crime scene, convinced that if everything didn't look flawless, I must be doing something wrong. But somewhere along the way, I realized those little holes. They're not failures. They're footprints. Now when I see a nibble here or a curl there, I smile because it means someone's home. Maybe a butterfly is laying eggs. Maybe a bee is gathering nectar. Or maybe a beetle's just passing through on its way to something delicious. As we age, we tend to see beauty differently. It's no longer about polished surfaces or picture-perfect blooms. It's about knowing your garden is alive, truly alive, buzzing, fluttering, crawling, blooming, full of energy even in the quiet moments. These days I plant with purpose. I grow flowers that feed pollinators, herbs that attract beneficial bugs, and native plants that belong right here. Because gardening isn't just about what looks good, it's about what gives back. And when you garden for life, not just looks, the joy runs deeper and the garden feels like a part of you. Number 11. I quit cleaning up too early in spring and let nature set the pace. For years, as soon as the first warm day arrived, I'd be out there, gloves on, rake in hand, ready to clean, clear, and tidy up every last leaf from the beds. It made me feel productive, like I was giving the garden a fresh start. But over time, I began to notice something was missing. Fewer bees showed up, fewer butterflies fluttered in. And then I learned the truth. I had been tidying too early, disturbing the very life that was still sleeping under that blanket of leaves and stems. All those little creatures we gardeners love, pollinators, beneficial bugs, even ladybugs, many of them need that messy-looking cover to survive the winter. Now I wait. I let the garden wake up on its own terms. I hold off until daytime temperatures consistently reach the mid-50s, and only then do I gently begin the cleanup. And let me tell you, it's made all the difference. The bees return, the butterflies find their way back, and I feel like I'm part of something bigger, something rhythmic and wise. Gardening at our age isn't about racing ahead. It's about learning to move and step with the seasons, not against them. And that kind of harmony, that's the kind of beauty no tidy bed can ever replace. Number 12. I quit gardening alone all the time and found friendship blooming between the rows. You know, I used to think gardening was a solo sport, just me, my gloves, and the quiet hum of bees in the background. And don't get me wrong, I still cherish those peaceful mornings in the yard, just me and the plants having a little one-on-one time. But over the years I've come to realize gardens grow more than flowers. They grow connection. It started small. A neighbour asked about my dahlias. I gave her a few tubers, and next thing you know, we were sipping tea by the rose trellis, talking about mulch and grandkids in the same breath. Then I started bringing extra seedlings to the community centre, swapping stories with folks who lit up just talking about tomatoes. And honestly, it filled something I didn't even know was missing. When we reach a certain age, time spent with others doing something we love starts to mean even more. Whether it's sharing seeds, asking advice at the nursery, or just smiling at someone strolling by your front yard. Gardening can be a beautiful excuse to stay connected. So, if you've been digging alone for too long, consider letting someone into your garden, even just a little. You might be surprised how much joy can grow when you do. Number 13. I quit ignoring my local climate and my garden finally started speaking my language. Back when I first started gardening, I thought knowing my USDA zone was all I needed. I'd see a plant labelled hardy to zone 9 and think, well, that's me, in the cart it goes. But oh, how quickly some of those plants regretted their decision to move in. You see, my zone 9 in the mountains of the Pacific Northwest is nothing like my cousin zone 9 in sunny California. She's got palm trees and flip-flops in February. Me, I'm still shoveling snow and crossing my fingers that my daffodils survived the surprise frost. It took me a while, but I finally started paying attention to my actual climate, where the wind settles, how the sun shifts through the trees, which corners stay soggy no matter what. That's when things began to change. Now I plant by microclimate, not just zone. I know where the tomatoes like to sunbathe, where the lavender prefers to lean, and where the hydrangeas sigh with relief in the afternoon shade, and everything from the herbs to the hummingbirds seems a little more at home. So if you've been playing zone roulette like I once did, maybe it's time to step outside with a cup of tea, stand still, and really notice what your own little patch of earth is trying to tell you. It knows best. It always has. Number 14. I quit planting in every empty space, and my garden finally learned to breathe. There was a time when I couldn't walk past a bare patch of soil without itching to fill it. A new seedling here, a quick transplant there. Before long, every inch of my garden looked like it was trying to win a crowd-pleasing contest. I think many of us older gardeners feel that urge. We see space, and we want to use it. We want every corner blooming, every square foot singing. But I've learned that sometimes what a garden really needs is space to exhale. These days, I've come to appreciate the quiet power of restraint. Leaving just a little room between plants allows for better air circulation, healthier roots, and easier maintenance. I can spot pests faster, prune without a wrestling match, and let the sun reach all the way down to the base of my plants, where it matters most. And you know what else? Those open patches create contrast. They give your eyes a chance to rest and make the flowers pop even more. Like a good piece of music, it's not just the notes, it's the pauses between them that make it sing. So now, when I see an empty spot, I don't panic, I breathe, I let it be, because just like in life, not every space has to be filled to be beautiful. Number 15. I quit making gardening a chore, and it became my favourite part of the day. Somewhere along the line, gardening started creeping onto my to-do list, right between pay the bills and clean the garage. There it was. Water the pots, pull the weeds, deadhead the zinnias. It began to feel like another job, something I had to get through before I could finally sit down with a cup of tea. But then, one morning I paused. The sun was just coming up. The robins were already gossiping in the trees, and I stood there, still in my slippers, just breathing in the scent of basil and damp soil. And in that moment, I remembered why I fell in love with gardening in the first place. It's not a chore, it's a gift. Now I see it as my morning stretch, my quiet prayer, my gentle rhythm that grounds the day. I don't rush, I don't check things off. I simply be in the garden, listening, smelling, touching, noticing. And let me tell you, it's changed everything. At our age, we've earned the right to slow down, to enjoy, to choose joy over obligation. And when we stop treating gardening like another task on the list, it starts giving back in ways we never expected. Peace, purpose, and the purest kind of presence. And remember, this isn't about doing less. It's about doing what matters more. Each thing I quit was like setting down a heavy bag I didn't realize I was carrying. And in its place, I found more joy and simple blooms, more energy for peaceful moments, more space to just be in my garden instead of managing it like a checklist. If something from today's video made you smile or gave you a gentle nudge to try something new, I hope you carry that inspiration into your garden this week. As we grow older, gardening becomes less about chasing perfection and more about enjoying every moment, muddy boots and all. Let's release what no longer helps us and welcome in whatever makes our days a little lighter. Remember, the garden you've created is already something to be proud of. If you enjoyed spending this time together, please hit the like button, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom for more heartfelt gardening tips, and let us know in the comments. What's one habit you've let go of in your garden that's brought you more joy? Thanks so much for being part of our community. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of your garden, and remember, every bloom is well deserved.